Do you understand success, and do you know how success can come to you? If not, tune in to learn more.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Hi, I'm Greg McCollum here with another edition of the Prosper Law Podcast. In Prosper Law Podcast, we teach lawyers, criminal defense lawyers specifically, how to grow their practices so they make more money, have more free time, and experience less stress. That's Prosper Law. That's what we do for criminal defense lawyers. We don't do it for other types of lawyers. We don't coach personal injury lawyers. We don't coach estate planning lawyers. We don't coach divorce lawyers. We don't do that. We coach criminal defense lawyers. We have masterminds and coaching events and other things to help criminal defense lawyers grow their law firms so that they can improve their life and get some joy out of life in addition to doing the important work that they do. That's really my passion, is criminal defense. I love criminal defense. I like the kind of the outsider status that we occupy. I like that we are the trial lawyers. We're the ones in court. My lawyers are in court every day. We're fighting it out, trying to enforce people's rights, defend people, and help the people. And that's important to me, and that's my mission at Prosper Law, is to help the criminal defense lawyers throughout the nation improve their firms, to improve their life, and have a bigger impact on the people they help. It can be a thankless job. No one understands what we do. People assume everybody who's arrested is guilty. They really don't have a clue. But criminal defense lawyers understand that, and that it's so important to me. And that's one of the things that I just really want to contribute to help those lawyers not struggle financially, not burn out, but to show them how to have a better life and a better practice and a better law firm. So, in terms of success, this podcast it's not really part two, but in some ways it is from the previous podcast. If you listen to the previous podcast, I talk about success and mindset and those kind of things. And I want to stay with that a little bit and explain to you some of the things that I experienced in my life, in my personal life, in my business life, and in my married life. Is like, if you're going to be successful, you have to be comfortable with it. And how comfortable do you feel if you're around successful people? And before you do that, drop back a moment and think, step back and think. Just think about the people that you know. Think about your neighbors. Think about the people you do business with. Think about the people you socialize with. Think about the people you go to church with. Are those people more successful than you? Are they less successful than you? Are they about the same? Do those people know more about business and success than you do? Or do they know less? In other words, are you the person that's at the top of the pyramid, and everybody you know looks up to you and asks you for advice and sees you as successful? Or are you somewhere in the middle of that? Or you're at the bottom of it? Now, I know the answer. Because the people that you spend the most time with mirror back where you are in life. And that's your environment. And your success environment is very important in how it influences you. And part of the reason that you join something like Prosper Law is to get around people that are doing what you need to be doing, which is becoming more successful, and that being around people who are successful, and you have to feel comfortable with that. You can't reject that. You have to put yourself like in a success room, a success environment, And when I think about it, I remember in Myrtle Beach, where I've lived for a number of years, we were, I was investing in property. And so I buy a building and I turn it into my office and I renovate it some, but not enough. And then I buy another house in an up-and-coming kind of commercial area. So I'm moving. I buy a house for $100,000. It's a dump. And then I do a lot of work myself. And I'm working there and I'm trying to make it better and fixing it up a little bit and doing this and that. And then I'm laddering property. So then I buy another house down the street and do the same thing because it was very intentional. I'm building this real estate portfolio, and the easiest way to do it in terms of borrowing money is to buy it for owner-occupied. So you buy an owner-occupied property, you get the best financing rates, then you fix it up and you move out of it and you buy another one. And no one, when you buy the other owner-occupied property and you don't pay off the mortgage, you keep paying the first mortgage, nobody asks you, well, what are you going to do with that other house? You just get to keep it. So you benefit from that financing and those arrangements. Now, there's a limit to that. I think when I was doing it, you could have four pieces of property like that before you couldn't get any more of those loans. You couldn't get a fifth owner-occupied loan. But then at that point, you got enough properties and houses, enough equity that then you can go to the bank, and get a 70% loan to value mortgage on that. And then you got enough equity over here, which it covers it. So you're in that, quote, no money down thing. So that's what I was doing. So I wasn't living in the best part of town. I was living in a marginal part of town. And my neighbors and things like that, well, they were not wealthy. Now, some of the business owners, because where I lived, some businesses were on the street too. And so they were there. But anyway, at some point, and this is also as part of visioning, I lived just outside of a nice neighborhood in Myrtle Beach. And then that neighborhood, and I used to walk through it. I remember being in my 20s when I first started working in the public defender's office. I would literally walk, jog and walk through that neighborhood. And I started seeing this house. And there were a couple of houses, but I really focused on it. It was almost like that guy in The Secret who figured out that he had bought and renovated his dream house because it was on his vision board. He didn't even realize it. The same thing happened to me. I had walked by this house and envisioned living there. And then one day we were riding in the neighborhood, my wife at the time, and we wanted to move into that nice neighborhood. And it was a stretch for us because, we quote, couldn't afford it. We didn't know how we were going to afford it. And then I ended up getting, I think, 3 mortgages for that house and structure and all these things. But only after I moved into it did I realize that I had dreamed about that house for years and I'd forgotten about it, at how I used to walk by it and look at it and go, wow, there's this big, 2-story house with these big columns, this nice swimming pool in the back on this corner lot in this nice neighborhood a couple blocks from the beach, in a prime location where a lot of business owners and people like that lived. Well, I ended up in the house because I envisioned it and I dreamed about it. And it's weird because I'd kind of forgotten that until I moved into it. Then I realized that quote, my dream had come true. But then be careful what you ask for, because what happened is we moved to this neighborhood, and we also my daughter was born. And I had my stepson, Tim. I was like, we need to join a different church. We need to take these children to church. And my church thing, that's a whole different thing. But I could do a podcast on all the different, my church journey from being a Southern Baptist growing up to then being a Methodist for 10 or 12 years to then converting to Catholicism. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. But so we joined this church. And when I went to this church, and maybe there was a part of me that joined the church because I thought that was a good church and it would help my life and business, right? And so do you really want to say that out loud, that I joined the right church because these are the people I want to be around? Well, that's a whole psychological thing to talk about, but honestly, it's not the wrong reason if those are the people you want to be around and you want to be in an environment that's helpful. But the neighborhood definitely was. And in the neighborhood, so I had been owning these fixer-uppers, and I had this old truck, and I'd be out there in my T-shirt and jeans, and I'd be working on it, and I'd be climbing a ladder, and if something needed to get done, I did it myself, and I was building this sweat equity, and I moved in this neighborhood. And the people in the neighborhood were not as rich as I thought they were. What I later learned, and the people I went to church with, what I later learned is they were, quote, business owners, but they were solo kind of business owners. In other words, one family owned a dry cleaning company that their father had owned. And other people owned some other things. Now, some of the people in the neighborhood were very successful. The majority of the people in the neighborhood were like what I'd call like solopreneurs. They were business owners and operators where they operated a business, but they really when they started their business, they got themselves a job. And there's a difference between owning a business and getting yourself a job that you own. Now, in the neighborhood, we had both. There was one guy, I think, that he owned, and I don't think you can do this anymore, but he owned a couple of Chick-fil-A's. Another guy I know at a screen printing company and some other businesses. Another family there owned multiple hotels and restaurants. And so there were some sprinkled in there, but the majority of people, there was lawyers and dentists, and eye doctors and people that maybe owned one restaurant. And that sort of thing. So they weren't business owners like I thought they were, but at that time I really didn't even understand the difference. I do now. The difference is with a business is something that runs without you. It doesn't mean you're asleep at the wheel. It doesn't mean that you're not involved in it. You have to be making executive decisions and doing things and leading and growing, but it's different. If you got to get up and do all the work every day, you own a, quote, business, but that's not what I'm talking about. You got yourself a job. You borrowed money and pay rent and got a location, but you really just got yourself a job. Now, when I moved in this house, everybody in the neighborhood, they were always working on their house. Okay, they were always spending money on their house. Every time I drove down the street, there'd be 3 work trucks at some neighbor's house, and they're re-roofing, or they're putting up new shutters, or they're re-pouring the driveway, or they're tearing off the shrubbery out and adding new stuff, or they're upgrading their sprinkler system. It was kind of intimidating because I thought, wow, I moved into this rich neighborhood. I don't measure up. I'm not at their standard, and I felt vulnerable. And my wife at the time, she actually started crying because of the wealth gap. And she said, I think maybe we should move. Now think about that for a minute. We moved to a nice neighborhood. We're so intimidated by what other people are doing and their appearance of wealth that my wife at the time thinks we should retreat and move. And think about it for a minute. What if we had done that? What if we had just tucked and run? What if we'd gone back to a neighborhood where it doesn't look successful, where we're in an environment that we feel comfortable with? What do you think would happen? Do you think I would have figured it out? My law firm would grow to where it is today? Do you think I would have the other business successes that I've had? I don't think so. But that discomfort was real. And the other thing that happened is that as my life has changed and evolved, and my kids are out of high school and they're either in college or out of college, and I'm in a different point in life, and so I'm selling the house, my quote dream house, because it's not my dream house anymore. I don't want to live there anymore. But there was a time when I would never sell it because so much of my self-esteem was in that house. It was like a safety blanket for me. It was like a self-esteem trump card where I just felt better about myself living there. Now, I'm selling the house. I bought a condo near the beach, a different neighborhood, different setup, because I don't care about the house anymore. It's not a status symbol. I don't need that anymore because I've kind of grown through that. I have my businesses, and I do what I like to do, and so I don't need that neighborhood anymore. The other thing is the people that I know and associate with now, many of them are far more successful than the people I thought were successful in that neighborhood. And I've gone from a neighborhood mindset to a nationwide mindset. And I know people all over the country now because I've done the things that I need to do to become more successful. And Napoleon Hill says, you have to rise up enough for success to even see you. And so that's some of what I've done. And so the house is no longer a status symbol. It just doesn't matter anymore. So in terms of how this affects you, one of the things that you want to do is you want to be in a success environment. So if you sign up and come to a Prosper at Law Mastermind, you're going to be sitting in the room with people and lawyers who are focused on growth and success. You're going to see people that are doing things successfully in a way that you didn't know how to do that. And it's going to change your environment. It's going to up-level your environment. And you look at how do you react? Like, how do you react to even what I'm saying? If you don't have any kind of reaction, you think, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Change your environment. Good. But if you start welling up and thinking like, well, if you reject it in a way or have an emotional response to it, then you need to recognize that. And because, I've seen that like with my cousin who's wildly successful. And I've seen it with, like when we visit properties that he owned, because he would let us stay there as a guest and stuff when he wasn't even there. And I would see how my family would react to it. And I didn't understand it, but over time I understood that when you look at somebody who's a friend of yours or somebody who's an acquaintance or somebody who's wildly successful, who's wildly wealthy, then when you look at that, it can mirror back to you. Like when you see the other person's success, what it does, it mirrors back to you that you don't have that. And so that challenges your beliefs, and it challenges how honest you're being with yourself. Because if you're honest, you say, well, I haven't done the same things that he's done. But people make up stories, and they make up stories. They say, well, this person got lucky, or this person inherited money, or this person was at the right place at the right time, or this person cut corners and was unethical. When you say that, you're just saying it to yourself as an excuse. Because no, that's not what happened. What happened is that person who's successful learned and grew and did things to get that success. That's what they did. And if you don't have that success, you didn't do that. And so your brain goes to these excuses and make up things to explain why you haven't done it. Because the reality of it is that you could have done the same thing they did. And if you don't believe that, then that's an issue. And it would also explain why you haven't had that success. Now, I see this all the time with people with this mirroring back. And in the neighborhood I moved to, there's this complex where they cut down all these trees and cleared the land, and they're going to build this, I think some kind of resort community. And I think it's called Margaritaville or something like that. It's a Jimmy Buffett company where they have these lifestyle kind of communities where you're not on vacation, you live there, you have a second home there, but it's kind of like you own a condo or a house in a resort. And so they're building these things, and people in the neighborhood are curious about it, and they put up the prices and stuff like that. And of course, when these things come in, the prices seem a lot higher than what you think anybody would pay for it. So there's a guy I know, and he's like, I know him from the neighborhood and the local little dive bar and stuff that we hang out in, and he had found out or something that they hadn't pre-sold a single condo, and these things were, $400,000 or $500,000, and whether you're getting a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom or whatever, and that they hadn't sold a single condo. And I don't know if he's right or wrong, because a lot of things he talks about he's not really correct. But he was giddy. He was laughing that he talked to somebody and that they couldn't keep the salespeople working in there because nobody could sell anything. And so he was giddy. They haven't sold a single one. So when I look at that, he doesn't know the people doing the development. All right. He doesn't know anything about them. He's certainly not in a position to buy one of these condos or move in there. He could never afford that. So if you look at it, if they can't sell them and then the dirt just sits there with the pipes sticking out of the ground and nothing, then that's not better for anybody. But if they do sell it, I think they have 2 or 3 restaurants and bars in there that other people like us, we could go in there and it'd be a better neighborhood. So why is he so happy that they haven't sold a single unit? He's not invested in it. He's not competing against it. He has nothing to do with it. Why is he so giddy? Why is he gleeful and talking about how, it's going to fail? They're not going to make it. The reason is because he's not successful. And so he's happy that somebody else is failing. And that's the thing. And that's what you have to watch out for. If you don't get to where you want to go in life, it's not that you had a calamity. It's not that you had some economic hardship. It's not that you had bad timing. It's not that you had lack of opportunity. It's not even lack of capital. If you want to look at calamity and economic hardship and bad timing, just look at my life. Read my book, From Chaos to Control. I had as much of that as anybody, but that's not what stops you. What stops you is your unconscious mindset and your fear. And so just the same thing that makes him giddy that they may fail, and I don't think the thing will fail, the condo development. I think it'll be successful because I think they know what they're doing, and they're maybe have to ride out a rough market or something like that. But if other people's success offends you, then be aware of that and be aware of what's going on in you, because it can be mirroring back your lack of understanding. And if you want to be successful, think about it and start putting yourself into a success community. Listen to this podcast is a good first start. Learning and growing and being in a group. And if you're a criminal defense lawyer and you really want to, stop bullshitting around, and you really want to start growing your practice, and you really want to move toward the life you deserve, reach out to us. I'd be happy to talk to you. I hope that you got something out of this. Greg McCollum. See you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.